June 7th, 1941, 23:30 p.m. The rocky hills north of Metula. Palestine Mandate. The air is cool and smells of thyme and dust. Private Kevin Kanga Riley of the 216th Battalion, 7th Australian Division, lies flat on the gritty earth, his Lee Enfield rifle cool against his cheek. He listens. He hears. Nothing. A few crickets, the nervous cough of his mate. Bluey Selden, 2 yards to his left. But from the north, from the hills of Lebanon, nothing. And that is the problem. Kanga is 20 years old. He's a sheep shearer from Goulburn, and he is one of 20,000 Australian soldiers about to launch a full-scale invasion. But the enemy, the man he is supposed to kill, is not a German. He is not an Italian. He is a Frenchman. It's not right. Blue, Kanga whispers, his voice a low drawl in the dark. Fighting the French? What in bloody hell are we playing at? My old man fought with him at the Somme. Shut your trap, Kanga, Bluey mutters, fidgeting with his Bren gun. Orders are orders, and the briefing said it's just what did the CO call it? A show of force. A show of force. That's what they'd all been told. For the past 2 weeks, the 7th Division, the silent 7th, green and untested, fresh from training in Palestine, had been briefed on Operation Exporter, the intelligence officer. A plummy-voiced British major had stood in the hot, canvas-sided tent and pointed to the map. Gentlemen, the situation is regrettable. The situation was this. France had fallen. The official French government, the Vichy regime, was now a neutral puppet of the Nazis, and that puppet government controlled the mandate of Syria and Lebanon. The problem, the major explained, was that the Germans were no longer honoring that neutrality. A month ago, he'd said, the Luftwaffe, German planes, gentlemen, were refueling at airfields in Aleppo, Syria. They were on their way to support a pro-Nazi coup in Iraq. They are, in short, on our bloody flank. The strategic reality was a knife at the throat of the entire Middle East campaign. If the Germans took Syria and Lebanon, they could cut off the Suez Canal. They could seize the oil fields of Iraq. The war in the North African desert would be over before it truly began. So, the order had come from Churchill himself. Secure the mandate. Now, the major had continued, with a forced, confident smile. Your opponent is the Armée du Levant, the French army of the Levant, commanded by General Henri Dentz. He'd paused, and this is the part Kanga remembers. General Dentz has no stomach for a real fight. He is a professional. His men are professionals. They will fire a few token shots for their honor. They will resist for a day or two. But the moment you gentlemen cross that border in force, they will capitulate. It was to be a picnic, a route march to Beirut. Kanga and his mates had been given propaganda leaflets to hand out. He pulls one, folded into a small square, from his breast pocket. He can't read it in the dark, but he knows the words by heart. Soldats Français, it began, do not fight your former allies. We are here as friends, to liberate you from the German yoke. It all sounded so simple, so polite, but Kanga, lying in the dust, feels a cold knot in his stomach. The officers were telling them one thing, but the old sergeants, the diggers from the last war, were telling them another. Never trust a briefing that says it'll be easy. His platoon sergeant had grumbled. And never, ever underestimate a man defending his own patch. And this was their patch. General Dentz's 35,000 Vichy French troops were not just Frenchmen. They were tough, professional colonial troops, Senegalese, Algerian, and Moroccans. And, most lethally, they were units of the French Foreign Legion, men who knew only how to fight. They were also angry. In 1940, the British, fearing the French fleet would fall into German hands, had sunk it at anchor at Mers el-Kébir, killing 1,300 French sailors. The Armée du Levant had not forgotten. To them, the British were not liberators. They were murderers. And then there was the other army, attacking alongside the Australians on their eastern flank, was a small, ragtag force of free French soldiers, led by General Charles de Gaulle's man, Le Gentilhomme, to the Vichy French. These men were not just enemies. They were traitors. This was not just an invasion. It was a civil war. They hate them. Kanga thinks. More than they hate us. The Vichy French, he realizes, are not fighting for Hitler. They are fighting for their honor, for their empire, and for the right to spit on the men they see as traitors. They have 90 of the best field guns in the world, the legendary French 75s. They have modern Renault R35 and Hotchkiss H39 tanks, which are more than a match for the Australians' few, flimsy Bren carriers. They are not waiting to surrender. They are waiting to kill. A whistle, thin and reedy, cuts the night. 02 Guamadur, June 8th, 1941. Right, lads. The sergeant's voice is a low roar. Fix bayonets. Kanga feels the cold shing as his 17-inch bayonet locks onto the muzzle of his Enfield. The sound is replicated 1,000 times, up and down the dark, rocky line. Forward, and no, cheering, you bastards. This is a gentleman's war. Remember? Kanga Riley stands up. He takes a breath. He and the 7th Australian Division step over the unmarked border, out of Palestine and into Lebanon. Into silence. The roads are clear. The border posts are empty. See, Kanga? Bluey whispers, his voice full of relief. Picnic. They've pissed off home. They march for 2 hours, in the dark, down the main coastal road. The silence is now louder than any artillery. They are walking into a trap. They can feel it. And then, as the first gray pre-dawn light touches the sky, they see it. It is a wide, deep-cut river, spanned by a single crucial bridge, the Litani River. And on the other side, dug into the cliffs, are the concrete pillboxes, the machine gun nests, and the pre-sighted artillery of the French Foreign Legion. The picnic is over. The first sound is not a rifle shot. It is the one sound that separates professionals from amateurs. It is the sound of artillery, a high-pitched, almost feminine shriek, followed by a crack that is so sharp, so violent. It feels like the air itself is being torn in two. "Get down!" a sergeant roars, but he is too late. The shell is not an impact. It is an airburst. A French 75mm shell. Its fuse, perfectly timed, explodes 50 feet above the lead platoon, spraying 300 steel balls downwards in a lethal, conical pattern. Kanga Riley, 100 yards back, dives, his face smashing into the rocky soil. He hears the thwack, thwack, thwack of the shrapnel hitting the men in front. He hears the screams. Men who had been marching, who had never fired a shot in anger, are now just pieces. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Bluey Selden hisses, his voice a dry croak. That's not a token shot. Another shriek crack, and another. The French gunners, hidden in the hills, are good. They are walking their fire up the road, turning the Australian column into a charnel house. And then, the machine guns open up. From the concrete pillboxes Kanga had seen, a new sound. Not the fast, canvas-belt rip of a German MG-42. Not the steady, rhythmic thump-thump of their own Bren. This is a slower, heavier thud-thud-thud. A Hotchkiss M1914, a weapon from the last war, but perfectly sighted, its heavy 8mm bullets chewing the earth. Spread out, off the bloody road. Officers are screaming. Kanga and his section tumble into a ditch, which immediately begins to fill with men. The picnic has lasted less than 5 minutes. This is a battle. This is a massacre. The sun is now properly up. A cruel, revealing eye. It shows the 216th Battalion and all the other units, pinned, disorganized, and taking horrendous casualties. Lieutenant Colonel G.H. Gaffer Lloyd, the 216th's commander, is staring at the Litani River Bridge. It is a stone arch structure, and it is a death funnel. It is sighted by at least 4 machine guns and, he suspects, an anti-tank gun. To follow the plan, to simply march over it, is to commit mass suicide. His battalion is trapped between the hills and the sea. The Royal Navy, offshore, is trying to help. The destroyers HMS Janus and Jackal are firing their 4.7-inch guns at the French positions. But then, a new, heavier sound echoes from the sea. The Vichy French have destroyers too. The Guépard and the Valmy, 2 of the fastest ships in the world, steam out of Beirut and engage the British in a high-speed naval duel. Kanga, lying in his ditch, can see the geysers of water, miles out as the shells land. This is not a show of force. This is war. We can't take the bridge, Lloyd roars to his officers. We have to force the river. The order comes down the line, man to man. A desperate whisper. Kanga, Bluey, a company, to the river. We're crossing. Crossing what? Bluey says. They crawl through the reeds to the river bank. The Litani is not a gentle stream. It is 80 yards of brown, fast-moving water, and waiting for them are canvas and wood assault boats, flimsy, collapsible things that look like a child's toy. You are joking, a corporal says. Get in, the sergeant yells. Kanga and 5 other men, including Bluey with his Bren, tumble into the boat. It sinks to the gunwales. Push, push, paddle with your bloody hands. They push off into the current. The water is cold. For a moment, there is silence. The only sound is men, splashing, cursing, their hearts hammering. They are halfway across. The French let them come. The Vichy commander, a Foreign Legion veteran who fought at Verdun, waits. He has seen this before. He lets the first wave get to the middle of the river, where they are helpless, committed. He raises his hand, and the river explodes. Mortars, machine guns, and the terrible, fast-firing 75s all open up at once. The boat to Kanga's left simply disintegrates, a direct mortar hit. Men and wood and canvas are thrown 20 feet in the air. The water around Kanga's boat boils as machine gun bullets rip through it. Thwack, thwack, thwack. The bullets are tearing through the canvas, Through the water, through flesh. The man in front of Kanga slumps over, a neat row of holes stitched across his back. "Bluey, fire! Give us some bloody cover!" the sergeant screams. Bluey Selden, his face a white mask of terror, stands up in the wobbling boat, shoves the Bren gun to his hip, and fires a long, useless, defiant burst at the cliffs. It makes him a target. A single, heavy-caliber bullet cracks past Kanga's ear and hits Bluey in the chest. The big man is thrown backwards, out of the boat, disappearing into the churn. "Bluey!" Kanga screams. The boat is sinking, full of water and blood. "Back!" the sergeant yells. "Swim for it! Back to the bank!" Kanga doesn't even think. He grabs his Enfield, his heavy, waterlogged pack, and dives into the river. He is a strong swimmer, but the current, the bullets, and the panic are pulling him under. He makes it. He crawls, gasping, onto the mud of the bank he just left. He has failed. He has lost his friend. He lies there, shaking, as other survivors, a handful, crawl out of the water. He looks at his sergeant. The man's arm is a red ruin. "Sir." Kanga gasps. They're soldiers, private. The sergeant spits, tying a field dressing around his bicep with his teeth. "Just like us." And then, the final insult. A new sound. A low, mechanical clank, squeak, clank. "Tanks," a digger whispers, his voice full of a new, hollow dread. On the far bank, emerging from a hidden position, are two Vichy French Renault R-35 tanks. They are not the panzers of the newsreels, but to the Australians, who have nothing, they are monsters. The tanks begin to fire their 37mm cannons. Small, vicious, crump, crump, crump shells, directly into the reeds where the survivors of the crossing are hiding. "Get the boys," someone yells. A soldier, Davo Johnson, scrambles into position with a .55 caliber boy's anti-tank rifle. It is a massive, ungainly weapon, more a small cannon than a rifle. He rests it on a rock, takes aim, and pulls the trigger. Boom! The concussion is huge. The rifle throws him back a foot. The armor-piercing round screams across the water and bounces off the French tank's turret with a loud ping. The tank stops. Its turret, slowly, like the head of a reptile, turns. It aims, crump. The shell explodes precisely where Davo was. There is just a red mist and pulverized rock. The boy's rifle is useless. Kanga Riley shoves his face into the mud. He is 20 years old. His best friend is dead. His platoon is shattered. He is outgunned. He is being hunted by tanks he cannot kill, and by artillery he cannot stop. And the enemy. The enemy is French. The propaganda leaflet is in his pocket, a wet, useless lump of paper. There is no liberation. There is no gentleman's war. This is just a fight, a bitter, hateful, and impossible fight against an enemy who was supposed to be a friend. And this is only the first morning. June 8th, 1941, 14 Macker p.m. The south bank of the Litani River. The sun is a hammer. The air is thick with the smell of cordite, dust, and the sweet, coppery stench of blood. Private Kanga Riley is still in the ditch. His battalion, the 216th, is shattered. The river crossing was a failure. The picnic has cost them their commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Lloyd, who was badly wounded, and dozens of their mates, who are either dead in the river or bleeding out in the reeds. Bluey is gone. Davo is gone. The tanks are still there, the French 75s are still firing. Their shriek crack now a routine. Terrifying punctuation to the long, hot afternoon. This is not a battle. It is a stalemate. A bloody, humiliating siege. The Australians are masters of improvisation. The diggers are not professionals in the same way the French are. They are civilians in uniform, and they hate being told what to do. But more than that, they hate failing, anew, cold. Calculating rage is setting in, replacing the shock. Right. Kanga's sergeant, his arm now a thick, dark red bandage, snarls. They want a bloody fight? We'll give 'em one. The new plan is not gentlemanly. It is Australian. It is a scramble. They cannot take the bridge. They cannot cross the open river. So, they will go around. That night, under a sliver of moon, Kanga and what's left of his platoon are withdrawn. They are exhausted, their feet rubbed raw, their hearts heavy. They are replaced by the 227th Battalion, fresh and furious. But the most crucial move is made by a different kind of soldier. No. 11, Scottish Commando. A unit of knife and knuckle specialists attached to the 7th Division has been given the impossible job. They are to paddle, in their flimsy canvas boats, out into the Mediterranean, around the mouth of the Litani, and land on the beach behind the French fortress. Kanga, hunkered down in a reserve position, just listens. Around 4:00 a.m. on June 9th, he hears it, a new sound, a furious crescendo of machine gun fire. But this time, it's from the north, from behind the French. The commandos are ashore. They are fighting in the dark. And then, the French 75s, the guns that have been tormenting Kanga all day, go silent, one by one. The commandos are overrunning the artillery park. Right, lads. Kanga's sergeant is up, his face a mask of grim determination. They're busy. Now we go. This time, there are no boats. This time, it's a desperate scramble. They find a half-destroyed, half-submerged pontoon bridge a mile upriver that the engineers have managed to secure. Kanga runs, bent double, his boots slipping on the wet metal. He makes it. He is on the north bank. He is in a maze of cactus, rocks, and, finally, trenches. He rounds a traverse, and he sees him, the enemy. He is not a 10-foot-tall monster. He is a small, wiry man in a high-crowned colonial helmet. He is Senegalese, a tirailleur. He is fighting for a country, France, that he has probably never seen. He is just as terrified as Kanga. He raises his rifle. Kanga raises his. They are 10 feet apart. They both fire at the same time. Kanga's .303 bullet hits the man in the chest, throwing him back. The man's 8mm bullet zings past Kanga's ear. So close he feels the heat. Kanga stands, panting, over the body. He feels nothing. Not victory, not anger. Just a hollow, sickening waste. Get a bloody move on, Riley! The sergeant screams. Pillbox, left! The concrete structure that had murdered them all day is now their objective. They do not advance. They crawl from rock to rock as the Hotchkiss gun thuds over their heads. Grenade. A private, a kid from Melbourne, pulls the pin on a Mills bomb. He stands, lobs it, and is cut in half by the machine gun. The grenade explodes, harmlessly, 30 feet short. Bastards. Another digger, his face black with rage, scrambles forward. He doesn't throw. He runs, He runs, zigzagging, until he is at the very wall of the pillbox. He shoves a sticky bomb, a glass flask of nitroglycerin covered in adhesive, onto the concrete, right over the firing slit. He pulls the pin and dives. The explosion is a dull, muffled crump, followed by a high-pitched scream from within. The Hotchkiss stops. Kanga and his sergeant are the first ones in, their Enfields blazing. The inside is a hot, dark, concrete box filled with smoke, cordite, and the smell of blood. The crew is dead. 3 men. They are not Senegalese. They are leathery-faced, sun-baked white men. Their sleeves are rolled up. On their arms are the tattoos of the Légion étrangère, the French Foreign Legion. They have just killed men who, a year ago, were their allies. Men who were, by any measure, some of the toughest soldiers on earth. Right, the sergeant says, kicking aside a spent cartridge. Get their ammo, and get ready to move. This ain't over. As the sun comes up on June 9th, the Litani River is finally secured. But the victory feels filthy. As Kanga's platoon regroups, a runner comes up, his face pale. The 225th, they just got hit bad. Another battalion, advancing further east, had seen a different French post. A white flag had appeared from a trench. The Australians, relieved, had stood up, waving, their rifles down. Good on you, Froggy. And as they stood, a different French machine gun, hidden on a flanking hill, opened fire. It was a pre-planned, cynical, professional trap. The 2.25th was mown down. Kanga listens to this. The last tiny, flickering ember of the gentleman's war dies. The leaflets are a joke. The liberation is a lie. This is not a regrettable situation. This is a war against an enemy who is smart, who is tough, who has no honor, and who hates them. The road to Beirut is open. But Kanga Riley now knows that every single inch of it will be paid for in blood. June 14th, 1941. A rocky Jebel hill overlooking the coastal road to Sidon. 10 a.m. The sun is a white-hot coin. The heat is no longer just hot. It is an enemy. It reflects off the white rocks, baking Kanga Riley inside his wool battle dress. His sweat has evaporated, leaving his skin caked in salt and pale dust. Bluey is gone. The Litani is 2 days and 1,000 years behind them. The advance has not been an advance. It has been a crawl, a bloody, vertical crawl. The terrain is the enemy's greatest ally. This is not the desert. This is ancient, biblical country. The coastal plain is narrow, and rising directly from it are steep, stone-terraced hills, olive groves, and ancient villages. And every village, every single thick-walled, stone farmhouse is a fortress. Every olive grove hides a mortar pit. Every rocky outcrop hides a sniper. Kanga and his platoon are pinned down. Again, crack, thwip, a bullet, fired from an unseen position, ricochets off a rock 3 inches from Kanga's head. The crack of its supersonic pass and the thwip of its impact are simultaneous. "Sniper!" the sergeant yells, his voice now a dry rasp. "Keep your bloody heads down. This is the war. It is not a war of grand charges. It is a war of 20-man platoons, fighting 20 other men. For a single, meaningless pile of rocks, the enemy is good. He is a ghost." Kanga has not seen a Vichy soldier clearly since the pillbox. He has just seen the results of them. They let the Australians advance into the killing sack, a vineyard, a bend in the road, and then, just like at the Litani, they open up with everything. Mortars, machine guns, and always, the 75s. The French 75mm guns are the stuff of nightmares. They are not just firing blindly. They are firing with arrogance. They are firing direct lay from hidden positions at targets they can see. A Bren carrier, bringing up ammunition, turns a corner. A 75, sighted perfectly, fires one shot. Crack boom. The carrier is a plume of burning fuel. Right. 2 section. The sergeant hisses, pointing. See that stone house? The one with the red roof? That's him. That's the sniper. Kanga, you're on the Bren. Kanga feels a cold lump in his throat. He is on the Bren gun, because Bluey is dead. He pulls the heavy weapon, its metal scorching hot, into his shoulder. Covering fire, now! Kanga squeezes the trigger. Thump, thump, thump. Thump, thump, thump. He rakes the windows of the farmhouse, the brass cartridges ejecting, hot, against his arm. Go, go, go! 3 men from his section are up and running, bent double, scrambling over the loose rocks. The sniper doesn't even flinch. Crack. One of the running men spins, a look of absurd surprise on his face, and collapses. Bastard! Kanga screams, and he gives the gun a long 10-second burst, emptying the magazine, shattering the stone around the window. Magazine. He rips the hot mag off, his hands fumbling. He slams a new one in. But the other 2 men have made it. They are at the wall. Kanga sees a grenade arc, disappear through the black square of the window. Whump. A dull, confined explosion. Silence. They wait. Clear it. Kanga and the sergeant get up and run, their hearts in their mouths. They kick in the heavy wooden door. The room is full of plaster dust and the smell of cordite. There is one man inside, a Frenchman, a legionnaire. He is dead, his rifle still in his hands. Kanga looks at him. This one man. This one. Professional, stubborn soldier, has held up an entire Australian platoon for 2 hours and killed one of them. And then, Kanga sees the rest of the room. It is civilized. There is a bottle of red wine, half full, on the table, a loaf of bread, a pack of Gauloise's cigarettes on a small cot. There is a photograph of a woman and 2 children, smiling, in a park in what looks like Marseilles? Kanga just stands there. He is 20 years old. He is a sheep shearer from Goulburn, and he has just murdered a man in his home. The sergeant, seeing the look on his face, shoves him. Riley, snap out of it. Grab his bloody ammo and let's go. We've got another hill to take before dark. This is the psychological poison of the Syrian campaign. The enemy is not a Nazi. He is not a Boche or an ET. He is a Frenchman, an ally, a man with a family. And he is fighting with a skill and a suicidal seeming honor that the Australians cannot understand. They are being killed, and they are killing, and no one knows why. As they push on, they pass a different unit, a unit of Free French, the Français Libres. Their trucks have the Cross of Lorraine painted on the side, and they are furious. Kanga watches a Free French officer, his face a mask of Gallic rage, arguing with an Australian captain. The Free French had been given a different, easier objective, the inland city of Damascus, and they have been mauled. The Vichy troops, their own countrymen, have reserved a special, bitter, personal hatred for them. They have fought the traitors with a savagery that stuns the Australians. The Free French are bogged down. Their attack has failed, and they are blaming the slow Australians. The Allied invasion force hates each other. Cadavo's useless boy's anti-tank rifle, Bluey, sinking in the river, the sniper in his farmhouse, the white flag trap. Kanga is sick of it. He is sick of the heat, sick of the rocks, and sick of this pointless, stupid, gentleman's war against an enemy he was supposed to liberate. He wants a real enemy. He wants to fight Germans. "Sergeant," he asks, as they hunker down for the night, the sound of a distant, harassing 75 still echoing in the hills. Where are we going?" The sergeant chews on a piece of hardtack. He points north, down the dark coastal plain. "See that glow, Riley? That's Sidon. We take that tomorrow. And after that, Damour. And after that, Beirut." He spits. "It ain't ending. They're not giving up. They're just making us pay for every single bloody rock." July 5th, 1941. A destroyed olive grove overlooking the Damour River, 23:00 p.m. They have been fighting for a month. A solid, brutal, 28-day month. Private Kanga Riley is no longer 20. He is, by the arithmetic of combat, about 80. He is no longer a sheep shearer. He is a digger, a veteran. He is also filthy, covered in infected insect bites, and has dysentery, like everyone else. The 7th Division is staring at its final objective, the last major line of defense before Beirut, Damour. It is not just a town, it is a position. It is held by the best troops General Dentz has left, dug in on the steep banks of the river. And this time, the Australians are not going to scramble. They are going to smash. For the first time in the campaign, Kanga feels the earth shake with a friendly sound. A full brigade of Australian 25-pounder guns has been brought up. "Right, lads," the sergeant, his arm now in a permanent, dirty sling, roars over the growing thunder. We're not sneaking in. We're blasting in. At Ode 130, aimbot July 6th. The barrage opens. It is not the polite naval gunfire of the Litani. It is a full-throated 100-gun roar. The sky is ripped open. The entire valley of Damour lights up. Shell after shell crumping into the Vichy positions. "Forward!" Kanga gets up and runs. He is no longer scared. He is just angry. He wants this to be over. He runs through the smoke, the smell of cordite and pulverized stone filling his nose. They cross the river on a pontoon bridge, this time, under their own covering fire. They hit the first line of trenches, and the French are still there. They have ridden out the barrage. They are fighting back, man to man. From the rubble, Kanga dives into a trench, straight into a nightmare. A Vichy legionnaire is waiting. He doesn't fire. He lunges, his bayonet fixed. Kanga, his Enfield too long to swing, parries the lunge with his rifle, the clang of steel on steel shocking him. He falls back, kicks the man in the stomach, and fires his rifle. From the hip. Boom. The .303 round hits the man from 3 feet away. Kanga doesn't even look. He chambers another round. Next, this is the fight for Damour. It is not a battle of tactics. It is a brawl. It is two exhausted, professional armies, finally, just trying to kill each other in the dark. The Australians are fueled by a month of frustration. The French are fueled by a month of suicidal honor. For 3 days, they fight for houses, for rooms, for garden walls. The Vichy French launch a desperate counterattack, not with infantry, with tanks. Kanga, holding a street corner, hears the clank, squeak, clank he remembers from the Litani. Tanks, tanks. A Renault R-35, its 37mm cannon spitting, clatters around the corner. Get the bloody 2-pounder? An Australian anti-tank gun, manhandled into a destroyed shop. Fires. Crack! The shot hits the tank's turret. It bounces off. Again! Crack! The second shot hits the track. The tank slews, crippled. The crew bails out and are cut down by Kanga's Bren gun. It is horrible. By July 9th, Damour is a smoking, shattered ruin. The French are broken. They are streaming back, in disarray, towards Beirut. The 7th Division has done it. The road is open. Kanga sits on a pile of rubble that was a 1,000-year-old church. He is trying to clean his rifle. His hands are shaking so badly he can't work the bolt. It's over. Kanga, the sergeant says, sitting next to him. Beirut's next. They can't have anything left. July 12th, 1941. A dusty road, 5 miles outside Beirut. 14:00 p.m. The advance has stopped. Kanga is sitting in a ditch. There is no gunfire, no artillery. There is just silence. What is it? Sarge, what's the holdup? Shut up, Riley. We're waiting. A rumor, like a dust devil, moves down the line. The Frenchies, they've asked for a ceasefire. They've surrendered. An hour later, it's official. General Dent's, his army in ruins, with no hope of reinforcement from Germany, and with the Allies, now including British units from Iraq, at the gates of Beirut, has asked for terms. The gentleman's war is over. It had lasted 34 days. Kanga Riley just sits. He doesn't cheer. He doesn't wave his hat. He just feels empty. He pulls out a crumpled pack of cigarettes. He has one left. He lights it. He thinks of Bluey Selden at the bottom of the Litani. He thinks of Davo, vaporized by a tank. He thinks of the 225th, walking into the white flag trap. He thinks of the Senegalese man he shot. He thinks of the legionnaire in the farmhouse with the picture of his kids. What in the bloody hell was that for? The campaign cost the Allies 4,600 casualties. Over 1,500 of them were Australians. The Vichy French, fighting for their honor, lost over 6,000. And the Free French traders, they lost 1,500 men, killed by their own countrymen. The armistice is signed at the Armistice of Saint-Jean-d'Acre. The French are given full military honors. They are allowed to keep their sidearms. They are even given a choice: repatriate to Vichy France or join de Gaulle. Most, bitter and proud, choose to go home. Kanga Riley watches them. A convoy of Vichy French trucks, loaded with legionnaires, their rifles stacked, rumbles past his post. They are not cheering. They are not defeated. They are sullen. They look at the Australians with a cold, professional contempt. One of them, a sergeant with a scarred face, spits on the road as he passes. Kanga, his Enfield in his lap, just stares back. This was the phony invasion, the picnic that turned into a butcher's bill. It was a war that nobody wanted and that everybody lost. It was a dirty, bitter, strategically vital footnote in a global conflict. And for the 7th Australian Division, the silent 7th It was their first taste of combat. A battle, not against the Nazi hordes, but against the ghosts of their father's allies.